Matilda, the musical, it's the Tim Minchin musical, as we mentioned. I loved it. What did you think?
Well, I didn't see the musical stage show, which I have to say, having seen the film, I now want to go and see the stage show. So just because, you said at the beginning, obviously, we assume that everyone knows the story, but crucially, the story is very, very talented young girl in a family with two parents who don't want her. At the very beginning, we see the mother going, I'm not pregnant. Oh, I'm having a baby. Why do all the terrible things happen to us? The father then wants a son and then, in fact, refers to Matilda for the rest of the thing as boy because he can't quite get his head about the fact that he's got a daughter. She then escapes, in inverted commas, to a school, which on the one hand is a great liberation, but on the other hand is ruled over by Trunchbull, played by Emma Thompson, but also has this teacher, Miss Honey, played by Lashana Lynch, who we were talking about in No Time to Die, the Bond film, who was in the Debbie Tucker Green film Ear for Eye, Eye for Ear. And who is a really, really brilliant actor who you can watch the whole of Matilda and not realise that, yes, that's that same person you saw being really, really imposing.
Is now Miss Honey.
Exactly, in the James Bond film. So, firstly, the obvious stuff, the songs are very, very good. You and I were talking last night when I stayed in your house because of Lady in the Van.
Yeah.
The alphabet song, which is really clever when you don't realise that it's doing the alphabet thing until you see it the second time round.
It's very early on when she's gone to school for the first time.
Yeah, and you realise that somehow they're working the alphabet. It's just smart. It's
Genius,
just in a really, really kind of clever wordplay way. The Revolting Children and Revolting Time song is an absolute banger, isn't it? So the songs are great. The story itself is one which has been told several times. I do have a great fondness for the Danny DeVito version. Obviously, the Danny DeVito version transposes it to America. And actually, when you were referring to the thing about is Darla snob, it is interesting in the DeVito version because America's class structure is so different to our class structure that it doesn't appear to be snobbish. That thing about when he says, why do you want books when you've got a perfectly good television? That actually it was funny that I, only having listened to your interview, thought, oh yeah, that is an interesting point. That when it's on home ground, you can perhaps interpret it that way. I think the young star, as you said, is absolutely brilliant. So Alicia Wish, so she's 14, is that right?
She's 13 at the moment.
Okay, just an absolute barrel load of energy.
Incredible, yeah.
And there was a funny thing when, Emma Thompson said, the kids work like Trojans. Thought, well, that's against the law. They're only allowed to work 4 hours
within
a day.
The confines
within
of
the
the
confines of the child labour laws. They work like Trojans. And also, this is, Matthew, is it Warkus or Watchus? How do you pronounce it?
I haven't actually said the word out loud. I think she said Warkus.
Warkus, beg your pardon. Okay, so who of course is the brilliant director of Pride. A theatre director, and of course, done this in the theatre, but directed Pride, which I remember reviewing so well when it came out because I just love that film, and I've gone back and seen it several times since then. It is absolutely joyous and uplifting. I think I was in the Isle of Man when we reviewed that film. I think I did an outside broadcast from the Isle of Man, which is one of the reasons why I have particularly happy memories of it. I think that it goes out of its way to be cinematic. It goes out of its way not to be a stage show on screen. And I think generally it manages to get that. There are a couple of moments when it felt a little bit like it's good. It's not brilliant, but it's good. But I want to see the stage show, which kind of made me think, okay, sometimes the effort towards being cinematic almost sort of drew attention to the fact that it's being cinematic. But, you'd have to be pretty hard-hearted not to be just won over by the story. Because, things, scenes that we all know, they are... What's the best way of saying this? I got the feeling that everybody in the frame, and actually everybody behind the camera as well, was giving it 110%. And occasionally it didn't entirely work for me, but it never didn't work because I thought anybody was just doing a job of work. I mean, it felt like it was, like it was being made by people that really wanted it to be the best it could be.
And the fact they were singing live.
Yes, which pays great dividends.
Sometimes you can't tell, but the way she was describing it, like being up a frame 80 feet in the air, which is incredibly high, and singing live, that's going to terrify anybody.
I have to say also, Emma Thompson in headmistress roles is a fantastic thing. I was referring you to the other day to that marvellous thing in An Education, with Carey Mulligan, in which she's the headmistress figure and Carey Mulligan says, something like, I'm a woman. And Emma Thompson says, you're not a woman. And she just says this in such a withering, meaning you're still a child, in such a withering way. So it's clearly she's relishing the heck out of playing this role.
Absolutely.
Also, in that interview, in the first 3 minutes, she did Edith Sitwell, Mephistopheles. It was like, I'm sorry, if only everyone could.
It was a very erudite.
It was very erudite
conversation,
and ironclad logic.
Well, now, that was a great video, I thought, wasn't it?
Couldn't take my eyes off it.
And neither could they.
Do you think they know that they can keep up to date with all things Kermode and Mayo's take by checking out our social channels?
Well, they do now.
Yes, they do.